Okay, so Tuggy is now stuck in the weeds, filling with water, and the electronics box is smoking. How do you feel about this, Timmy? Welcome back to the Save It for Parts channel, where I've been doing a bunch of satellite dish stuff recently, but I keep saying it's gonna be time to do boats once summer rolls around. Well, summer is here, it's time to dig through the dumpster boat pile, and of course I've picked a nice rainy day to do this. I think I used up all the nice sunny days for satellite dish stuff. Now last year I did a project where I took an old discarded Tuggy Tugboat sandbox, filled it with spray foam, put extra foam on it, put lights on there, put a horn on there, put a motor on there, made a fully functioning miniature tugboat. I thought it was really awesome, but the DNR had other thoughts, and they told me to Their main argument was that if they let one idiot like me get away with a stupid Tuggy tugboat, then every idiot is going to want to build one, and they're going to have just an invasion of Tuggy tugboats sinking on Lake Superior, or something like that. Their argument definitely seemed to hold less water than Tuggy did. Anyway, I still have the Tuggy tugboat, it's back there in the pile somewhere, and I still want to do something with it, but since we can't ride it around ourselves, maybe we have to turn it into something else. Now, first off, I have to find Tuggy. Like I said, it's somewhere in this pile, but there's a lot of stuff in this pile. We have dumpster kayaks, we have broken kayaks, we have the electric sailboat, we've got the actual motor skiff, my good boat, which I haven't even used for at least a year. We've got the pump car train that I need to work on. We've got just all kinds of nonsense back here. This is the part where I get overwhelmed and frustrated with how many boats I have. But we have found Tuggy way at the back here, up on milk crates, beautifying the neighbor's side of the yard. Alright, we got Tuggy into the garage somehow. Now we gotta get all this tarp off, see how many raccoons are living in there. Just look how legit this thing is. It's got a motor, it's got Coast Guard navigation lights, it's got cleats for towing, it's got all kinds of extra flotation. We've got more navigation lights, we have a safety bell, we have cigarette lighters so we can charge stuff. We've got a bailing bucket for when it does sink. I mean, it won't sink, it is completely safe. We even have an emergency paddle. How could those heartless bureaucrats down at the Minnesota DNR say this isn't a boat? Do they have no sense of childlike wonder? Or maybe they're concerned that too many children have a sense of childlike wonder and you'll get a fleet of middle schoolers floating down the river on these things. I guess that's fair. Since the DNR insists that this is not a legal boat and is only a toy, will only ever be a toy, let's lean into that a little bit. I've got a bunch of other toy boat stuff stashed in here. So if Tuggy is just a toy, there should be no legal difference between an RC boat this size or an RC boat that size. Let's see what we've got for radio control modules here. I remember these from my childhood. These things use crystals and they're basically on CB radio channels, so you could take CB crystals and swap them out, really annoy truckers in your neighborhood. Okay, it's day 2 of pretending to work on Tuggy, but actually doing yard work that I put off all year instead. People ask how I have so much time for projects like Tuggy and boats and whatnot. It's because I ignore my yard work forever until it becomes a real problem. So as I was dealing with Tuggy back here and the rest of the boat pile, I realized there's a bunch of problems in the back. There was all this firewood stashed back there, which I thought was covered with a tarp. The tarp had rotted, all the firewood is pretty much rotten, full of mildew, full of mushrooms, so we got to dry that out if we have any chance of using it or figure out something else to do with it. And then the whole boat zone back here was just turning into soil, basically. I had ignored it so long, there were just leaves and sticks and brush all over the concrete patio, and it was starting to grow grass. It was a mess. So we pulled a bunch of stuff out, we cleaned all that out, we pushed the train back in there, pulled some boats out, we're burning some brush, trying to get things organized back here. So that's how I have time for Tuggy. I don't, I just push off projects that I should be doing around the house. So first up, let's make sure Tuggy still works, since it has just sat in the weeds for over a year. None of the buttons do what they're supposed to, so we can turn it on, we can go to maximum, but we have no off control and we have no turning. Actually, what I want to do is get rid of the gamepad completely, since nobody's going to be sitting in the boat, and switch over to this remote controller. I was trying to change the batteries on this ancient battery pack, but this whole thing is actually one battery pack, and these are soldered in place, so we're going to have to rebuild that for modern AA's. That definitely looks legit. Not a problem at all. Definitely a problem. Now I need a battery for the receiver, so I'm resorting to desperate measures here of reading the manual to see if it tells me what that is. Alright, I've got another box of random RC garbage. Now, how do I translate this system, which sends voltage over to a servo motor, into this system, which just momentarily connect some of these buttons and I assume drives some kind of chip in the motor itself. I realized I don't actually know how the controls on this work. Since the little control panel board is broken, I'm just gonna chop into the control wire and see what we can figure out there. I thought I had the manual for this system, but I can't find it, and I've never been much of a read the manual type of guy anyway. I'm more of a connect random wires together type of guy and see where the smoke comes out. This is called foreshadowing. Something definitely seems broken on this. I can get the motor to run, but I can't get the internal steering to turn. Yeah, there is a lot of moisture in here. Not a good sign. Oh, there's a lot of water down in there. And I think that is right next to the motor that steers this thing. All right, so if you want a trolling motor that is not waterproof, go with the Motor Guide Laser 320 ES. Just leaving it outside, even with a tarp over it. Actually, I think I had 2 tarps over this. So the Motor Guide 320 ES is completely ruined by storing it with several layers of waterproofing on top. Probably won't be buying one of these guys again. Well, I'm a little bit stumped here with Tuggy. I hate to go out and buy something new because this is the Save It for Parts channel. We're supposed to be repurposing old junk and not just buying things when we need it. I'm gonna have to think about this a little harder. This is the part where I just sit staring at the problem for 20 minutes and hope it solves itself somehow. On the plus side, I finally got rid of the solar boat, so I have my little miniature trailer available again to haul Tuggy around. And I found this guy in a dumpster. He might have to be Tuggy's pilot. If I'm not allowed to drive Tuggy around, then maybe creepy baby here can. Well, I just lost a tiny little bearing that was in that motor. I don't know, if it's that easy to lose, it can't be that important. Since we can't get the steering working on this thing yet, let's work on another critical piece. The horn. The horn was supposed to be for the jet boat here, but the way my summer's going, I don't know if we're ever going to get to this. The drive is still out of it. I haven't even taken the tarp off this year, and I keep getting distracted with other projects. So this might just sit around for another year, and someday we'll get to it. We have some SCBA tanks. So this is like scuba on land. This is what firemen use to go into a fire when they need breathing air. Friend of mine found a bunch of these, so we're going to use this as an air tank. Now these are rated for like 4,000 PSI, and I do not have a compressor that will go anywhere near that, but we don't need to go that high for a simple horn. We got a whole pallet of these PVC fittings one time, and they're all threaded, which I thought was kind of useless. Who needs a threaded T like that? But I think it's actually the same thread as our air tank. Further proof of my theory that if you hoard enough trash, eventually trash A fits trash B, and you've got something usable. While I wasted that hour on the horn, the motor has gone through the ultrasonic cleaner, and it's definitely looking a little bit nicer. And it runs now. We might have steering again. But no, we don't have steering. Of course, that was too much to expect that something would go right during this project. So at this point, I'm getting desperate, and I'm considering doing something insane and putting actual money towards this project. This right here is a linear actuator. I paid 75 real dollars for this thing. To put that in perspective, Tuggy here was free. I found it on the side of the road. This electric trolling motor was like $50. The battery was free. The RC equipment I'm using was like $5. So this single piece, if I use it in this project, is going to be worth more than everything else here. And I was going to use this for a satellite dish project, but I've just never gotten around to that. I still don't quite know how I'm going to motorize some of my satellite dishes, but this is a 12-volt linear actuator. It slides back and forth, and I think what we could do with this is just bolt it onto the motor, have it push the motor left and right. This is absolutely not water rated, but apparently the Motor Guide motor wasn't water rated either because it got water in it, so. And yes, I paid $75 for this at Axeman, which might be the record for the single most expensive gadget I've ever bought at Axeman. As with all my projects, I use only the most precision engineering techniques. All right, it looks like that works. It's about time something worked with this project. Well, his arms don't seem to move, but he still sounds like a normal child. I don't know why anyone would throw away a perfectly good zombie child like that. If we ever get RC Tuggy working, he'll definitely be a great captain. Public service announcement, demon kids don't float, so give them something that does. Then those pesky campers at Crystal Lake won't be able to escape by jumping into deep water. Little Jimmy here is very poorly made out of the cheapest of materials. I've already broken his leg, his spine, and several other parts just trying to get him onto his stand and set up in the boat. So this might explain why he was in the dumpster. At this point, he is mostly held together with zip ties, which means he fits right in with all my other projects. I found a couple of these RC relays, so hopefully this will translate things like the throttle signal from the receiver to just an on-off to the motor. Now the plugs are different on the original RC servo versus these relays, so we're going to have to chop and mix some wires together a little bit. Alright, we have simple motor on-off. Alright, time to build this thing a brain. We've got a project box. I think this was from Axeman Surplus. Let's see, we've got voltmeter, amp meter, a little bit antique, but I think they still work. Got an emergency stop switch, always important. Yeah, that looks wrong. I'm a little concerned that some of my wires here aren't going to be large enough to handle the current of that trolling motor. However, I ran the trolling motor just directly to the battery through this old amp meter, and it showed less than 2 amps of power draw, so maybe my wiring is fine, or maybe I shouldn't trust an amp meter that's 100 years old that I maybe found in the woods somewhere. This is more foreshadowing. I've done something wrong to the 9-volt power switch. Let's see if I have another switch in my meticulously organized bin of wires here. Of course, all the good stuff settles down to the bottom of the bin. Well, now I've broken the terminal out of my 9-volt connector, so that's stuck in there. Alright, couldn't find any more of those in the garage, so we're checking the indoor hoarding pile. Yeah, there's one. Alright. That's a good thing I budgeted an entire 4-day holiday weekend for this project, because we're now well into the following week. And I don't know if I've made any progress or not. It works! We have steering! We have steering in both directions. This is a huge step up. Alright, one really bad idea coming up. Oh, that is fantastic. I think we've definitely just doubled our chances of getting pulled over by the water patrol. Yeah, unfortunately this cheap eBay horn has some pressure issues. Some kind of slow leak in the horn mechanism. You can actually hear it coming out of one of these horn tubes. So the control box is basically done. We've got our e-stop button that turns on the 12-volt DC. So we've got our voltmeter, our amp meter. This turns on the 9-volt for the RC system. And you can see, even with the motor running, yeah, we're really only drawing like an amp or two, so hopefully all my shoddy wiring in there is going to hold up to that. And this is even more foreshadowing. Now, one potential problem I noticed, if the RC transmitter loses power, it actually starts running the motor. So, yeah, if this thing goes out of range of the transmitter, it might just start driving itself around. Alright, I'd say this stupid thing is about as ready as it's going to be. It's time for a Tuggy test drive. You want to know something I think is a giant scam? Trailer lights. I'm pretty sure these are designed to only ever work once. You buy a whole new set of trailer lights, all new wires, rewire the entire thing, install the new lights, hook everything up, and they work great. Once. The next time you take it out, something's broken on the trailer lights. Either it doesn't turn, it doesn't break, and by the next year, you got to rip the whole set out and replace them again. So I got to mess with my trailer lights before we go out, and then I'll probably have to mess with them again the next time I try to take this trailer anywhere. If someone could invent a set of trailer lights that work more than one trip, I would pay a fortune for that. And there's a sheriff right there, and he just took a picture of Tuggy, so I think he enjoys seeing Tuggy just as much as we do. All right, Tuggy test in 3, 2, 1. Well, he will turn left really well, but he won't turn right. This is going well already. 8. All right, working much better. There we go. goes pretty quick. He's really hard to steer. I ran over that board again. Okay, it was really difficult to steer Tuggy from back here. Now we have lost forward propulsion. Still have steering, we just have no go. Let me know if people want to use the ramp. I might take them apart a little bit here. So if we can't actually drive the electric boat around, I'm pretty sure something like this is legal, an RC boat towing my kayak. Then this should be perfectly legal. I think I'm on fire a little bit. Okay, so Tuggy is now stuck in the weeds, filling with water, and the electronics box is smoking. How do you feel about this, Timmy? Little Timmy, what do you think of this outing? Little Jimmy, how do you feel about this? All right, are you filming? There's no way to determine when he's gonna do that, so I give up on that whole gimmick. Okay, so we definitely had some issues on that lake test. So first off, I think what happened here is the little relay for the throttle shorted out. Now, these things are rated to 14 volt, 20 amp, so I assumed it would be fine with 12 volt, and this amp meter consistently said I had 1 amp, but I don't trust this amp meter. I think the trolling motor is drawing more current than that, so I don't trust the meter here. I think we tried to pump too much current through the little relay, and we burned out the throttle. So then, just as a field expedient to try to make it work, I swapped it over to this relay, which was running the horn originally. Now that had much smaller wires, and I think things heated up, and that's when we had the smoke coming out of the box. So that was problem number 2. We also lost the steering, so we killed basically the entire RC circuit. None of this works right now. So we didn't get very much lake footage at all on that test run, but we did get plenty of hilarious B-roll footage of little Bobby bouncing down the road. We have some really terrible roads here, and there are parts of our local roads that Minnesota and the city have just never touched in decades, so they are pretty much more pothole than road at this point, and that was fun to watch at least. So I looked up the specs on that trolling motor, and it actually draws about 40 amps. Now yes, the propeller will have more resistance in water than it does in air. However, that amp meter still only showed a couple amps of draw, even at full power in the water, and for some reason I trusted it. So this amp meter is trash. All of my wiring is trash. This whole blue box is trash. This thing literally belongs in the trash. Okay, you guys know me. I can't throw this out. There's still like 1 or 2 good pieces in here. I think that RC receiver is still perfectly fine, and that 9-volt battery is fine. So I fully intended to continue with this video. I ordered all new RC parts for this thing. I ordered a speed controller. I ordered new servos, stuff that is rated up to like 100 watts, so it can actually handle that 12-volt battery. It can actually handle the draw from the trolling motor. However, it's all back ordered now, and it's going to be August before it shows up. I started this video in early July. I was hoping to have it done in early July. It's now mid to late July, so we're already running way over time on this. I have a bunch of other videos I'm working on. I have other stupid boats I'm working on. I need to make some more space in the garage, so I'm going to push this stuff aside until those new RC parts show up, and then there will definitely be a part 2 and maybe a part 3 Tuggy video, because I intend to finish this. We've got other stuff to do with it. We've got other silly adventures for Tuggy to go on once we have a motor control brain that isn't just going to catch on fire, short out, and leave us stranded in the middle of a lake somewhere. So we're going to wrap this video up here. We had some moderate success out on the lake until we smoked everything, but that just teaches us we have too much electricity going through too small wires, too small servos, too small of RC relays, so we need to redo it all. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss future installments of Tuggy and my other nonsense boats. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Oh, get a close-up of the blue electronics box. It's slightly on fire.